Phew, thank goodness we're not on Wendy the Tank this afternoon. That would have been disastrous. Okay, so we'll just go over here. There they are. We'll take a view from here. Now I'm just going to pull the thorns out of my leg very quickly as you look at them. But Barbara, you're wondering if there's anything in the area for them to hunt. I'm not sure. It's very thick here. There's a lot of bush willows, quite a bit of monkey orange, silver cluster leaves, long grass. So it's a lot thicker than the areas that we were driving earlier today. So unfortunately the bush is still quite impenetrable with our eyes. For a lion though, and their acute senses, their hearing, their eyesight and their sense of smell, and it's very sheltered in here too, which actually is not going to work to the lion's benefit. They prefer to have a bit of wind so that they could move quicker. It would cover it would cover the sound that they'd make moving through the grass, and then also the wind would be able to give them a bit of cover. But they were all around here. I'm not sure if all the lionesses are here, all the cubs are here. Obviously, we've only seen 3, and I've seen 4 cubs, and 2 of the adults. But I'm sure the rest are just, I can see them actually moving up in front. And I think I can see a road too. But it's quite nice. So there could be anything in here. There could be the odd buffalo. There could be kudu. Actually, the chances of there being more kudu in here. And maybe a couple of zebra, wildebeest, you name it. They have actually caught a steenbok up here. Do you remember it feels like such a long time ago, we had that amazing sighting where the Nkuhumas, it wasn't a steenbok, they caught an inyala, a little inyala, and right where we are now, and they ate it, which was quite amazing. We just got here at the right time too, because we didn't think there were any lions on the property, and they were sneaky. But okay, let's try go forward again, and see if we can actually get a front view of these cats. Now, which way are we going to go? Let's actually sneak in this gap. Thank you, in reverse. So as we're driving about here, there's a question from Sarah, and that question is, how many lions in a pride? It depends. You can have up to just 3 lionesses to form a pride, but in this particular pride, the Nkuhumas consist of 5 adult lionesses, and then they've got 6 cubs. Just trying to find, hopefully get a little gap here. Oh, it's so tricky. They're listening to something, but I don't actually know what they're going for. No, this is not the right spot. If I go back again. There, is that good? Okay, we've got a little gap here. Now this is what we're going to have to just take for the moment, is these little gaps every now and then. But they are in here. The little cub just laying in the grass. And then one of the adults just in front of it. But look how camouflaged they are. Sorry, I'm just looking to see what's going on the sighting. There's many cars driving around here now. But we're going to hold our position because we've been very patient the entire day, waiting to see a cat. Now, Heidi, I actually cannot even remember your question. Sorry, Alice, I got distracted. I was just listening to the Game Drive radio just for a moment to see what was going on. Oh, yes, we need a buffalo, says Heidi. Heidi, we most certainly do need a buffalo right now. And like I said, there could be the odd dugger boy hanging about here. I still think that the chances of catching a kudu in here is a lot better, because every time we drive around on these roads, the antelope that we see most are members of the trachylephids. So the kudu, the inyala, lots of bushbuck. So maybe we'll get to see one of them. It'd be nice if they could catch a big kudu bull. And they're looking really good at the moment. They're quite muscled up. They're looking lovely. And that would be an amazing meal for the lionesses. Not necessarily one that they would eat for days and days like they do when they feed on a buffalo, but definitely enough to keep them on the property for more than 24 hours. And that's exactly what we want. Now, the adults are standing up and staring and listening, so they must have heard something, or it might not be close. It could be in the distance, but there's one lioness. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but from where she is, just moving a little bit further west to the right of her. And that lioness is now following. Here comes another lioness. So here's the 3rd adult. Also going off, and the cubs are following too. They haven't been told to stay. Though The little ones are getting, well, they're not even cubs anymore, they're sub-adults. They're getting to that age where they're going to start participating and join in on hunts. Not necessarily the whole stalk and the capture of their prey, but definitely observing close by. A little flick of the tail, very sassy, that one. Okay, now we need to get out of here, Sebastian. This is going to be our next problem. I think if we... we're going to have to do a bit of maneuvering around here, I think. Let's go around this way. There's a little gap for us. Come on, go Rusty, go! Is Rusty a girl or a boy car? Is it a girl? All cars are girls, says Sebastian. Okay, Rusty's a girl. I'm just trying to think. I don't want to... I'm going to have to go through this little gap here. We're going to squeeze. Suck it in, Sebastian. Says me. Are you ready to go under this little gap? It's a really small gap here, but we'll fit. Nifty little cars. Okay, we're going to do a bit of maneuvering now. We're going to try and get out of here and get another view of the lions. It seems as though finally Sir Thamba has woken up.
He has woken up. We still don't know if we can actually call it that he's going to become a bit more active, because he woke up, he stretched down a little bit, and then he turned around and went back to lying down. So I think maybe it's still a bit too early to call it. I am hoping that he's going to head with his beautiful head up. He has been yawning and he started grooming himself, so there's a very good possibility that he's going to start becoming a bit more active. And there's those beautiful eye of yours. What are you looking at? Lisa, you're saying that he must be in a growing period. I think so. I think maybe he's in a bit of a growth spurt at the moment. But also in a very lazy time of his life. There's something there that he was looking at, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. That was a proper look, as in like, Ali, what did you just say? I am terribly sorry. I'm sure you earned your right to sleep. You are a stunning creature, aren't you? You're going back to sleep. No, I didn't mean it. Wake up. Isn't that the sweetest view, though? Isn't that just incredibly heartwarming? I think you had us all fooled, and this is why I was a bit worried when he laid down again and he turned around, that maybe he was just busy finding a new position or how to cuddle himself up and keep slightly warmer. Although I think maybe now the seed has been planted in his brain, maybe we'll have a bit of a better chance of him getting up and moving around while Tayla manages to reposition and have another look at those lions. And how amazing of a comeback is that for Tayla after being on leave? I don't think you could wish for pretty much anything that's better than that. And for us, we have had a very happy catcher day, I think. We've had this beautiful boy that has been able to feature, and then of course lions and more lions, which is always wonderful to see. What's that? James, you say that Catcher Day has been a roaring success. I fully agree with you. I think we've been very, very lucky with all these beautiful creatures. Just every time he gets his head up like that, I'm almost like waiting for him to get up. So that's why I stopped talking. I'm almost waiting for him to spring down the bush and for us to have to start moving around following him. But I don't think we can complain at all about what a wonderful day we've had today. Beautiful, aren't you? Lisa, you were wondering what a spot pattern means. Well, the spot pattern is what we use to identify particular leopards. I think Thamba, it's either 3 on one side or 2 on one side and 4 on the other side. I think it's actually 3, 4. And it's just, you just refer to 2.4. It just refers to the spots that they've got on the sides of their nose. So you'll see every leopard will have a different combination. So, for example, if we were to look at Thamba, we would have 2 on the right side and 4 on the left side. If he... if he were to wake up slightly a little bit more, it's just those spots above the whiskers, we'll be able to have a bit of a better look. But I think for now, you're just going to have to trust us that is the count. There we go. Gone back to sleep. So it is a quick way of IDing leopards and just finding out who it is that we're looking at. Other researchers also, for example, they use the ones around the side profiles. So they'll use a spot pattern just to make triple sure of what they're looking at. There we go. I think there's just that one blade of grass. But yes, the spot patterns refer to the spot arrangement that a particular leopard or even a lion have above their whiskers that allow us to identify individuals, because every pattern will be different. Still such a young cub. Look, he's still got a very nice rosy nose, and as he gets older, then that nose is going to start becoming darker and darker. But it's quite endearing to see that he's still got a nice rose one. Seems like Tayla has managed to find a better view of the lion, so let's go over to her and see what the Nkuhumas are up to.
We have an amazing situation here where there's a crested francolin walking just past that young sub-adult Nkuhuma. Yes, be careful. I don't know if it's seen it just yet, but you can hear it acting very suspiciously, or very nervously, sorry. But not interested at all. I think I heard a kudu barking quite far away behind me, and that's what got that youngster's attention. But it just shows you, once a crested francolin would have made a great toy for a young lion. There's definitely some antelope barking behind us. And now, not even interested one little bit. How crazy is that? But off it goes to join the rest of the pride, which are just sitting up in front. You are very lucky, francolin. You would count your feathers that you made it through that, because it wouldn't have taken much for this youngster to have caught it. And they're a lot more nimble now, I suppose, than what they used to be when they had to fall over their own feet. But this is really, really quite beautiful. Off they go. Now I'm trying to figure out, we're sitting here now, and Sebastian and I were trying to work out what is going to be our best way in. I think, Seb, what happens if we go here, where that francolin has just gone past, and sort of navigate, maybe go around that big wattle and come from the other side, because the other cars are just sort of over here, and I don't want to get in their way too much. So we'll go the other way around. Let's try this again. We've got lots of nice leaves to clean later. All the old ones. No one was going to eat them anyway. Yes, I think we've got a spot here. We'll squeeze through this little gap. And then Seb, if I poke my nose through here, we're going to get all of them. This will be quite nice. You'll just see all their little heads. How's that? Fine? There we go. Now we can count them too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 adults are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little cubs. So there we go. I can confirm that the entire Nkuhuma Pride are here, and they look wonderful. Isn't that a great shot? You can see that follow me sign so clearly now on the lions in the back of their ears, those black marks. So just as a waterbuck has a white ring around its bottom, this is how the lions follow each other around. A slightly more subtle sign, and then they also have got the black tip or black hair on the tip of their tail, which they will use. And we've got a whole, look at can I draw your attention away? Look at this family of francolins that are now coming down here just to the left. There's about 7 of them acting very nervously. Look at this. They're all saying, everybody quickly move fast, nobody get left behind. Now they know the lions are here, and they do have to be careful, even though it would be a very small meal, one mouthful in fact. They could be eaten by these cats. Very noisy. So now this is probably a serious frustration for these lions, because as they sit here waiting to hear a kudu pull a leaf off of a tree, or perhaps as a buffalo walks through the grass, you know, the crunching of the leaves underneath its feet, these birds are now giving away the presence of these lions. by alarming like this. And all the animals speak the same language. Yes, don't go straight. I think you need to carry on going right. Oh, you silly bird. Natural selection is going to get you. Look at that one's going, I'm just going to go down this way. This seems safe. Don't go there. It'll be the last road that you walk on. Yes. You're obviously not the leader of the flock. Come back. No, it wants to. Silly birds. Now, normally what leopards do, and I quite like it, is they often show their frustration to the animals that give their presence away. So if this was a leopard and the francolins are doing the same thing, they'd be snarling and almost spitting in disgust at the francolin's behavior. But of course they're not doing anything that they're not supposed to. They're petrified. Their feathers are all ruffled. But I think that's beautiful. And again, Ali's been speaking about camouflage for most of the drive and talking about leopards' rosettes and how that helps them blend into the vegetation very well. Lions don't need rosettes because the tawny color that their coats are blends in. They almost become completely invisible in the grass. And this could be a nice thing to do. Maybe take a screenshot and to all your family members at home say count the lions and see if anybody can, of course, guess correctly. Lots of flies, lots of ticks, but they're still looking quite healthy. And the flies don't seem to be bothering them as much as they have been bothering Thamba today. Well, I suppose as you get older and the longer you live in the bush, the more tolerant you become. Or you just pick up a guarri branch, like what we do as presenters, and swat away. I must admit, I have murdered many biting flies in my career, and I don't feel sad about it at all. They bite me, they make me bleed. I feel no remorse for the flies. Oh, my comms are gone again. Now, Sunny Jane, I think you've said Sunny Jane. You're wondering how many, is there only one pride of lions on the reserve? I think the question was, sorry Alice, my comms have decided to disappear again, perhaps as we were bouncing about in the car. No, there's not just one pride. This is our sort of, if you will, our resident pride that we do see most often. But there are many other prides of lions within the area that pop on every now and then. So we've got the Tsalalas and the Torchwood Pride, and we've got the Sticks that we see every now and then. So there's quite a few that move around in here. And then the Birmingham Boys, which are 4 male lions, and they sort of rule the northern Sabi sands up in this area. They see all those prides that I've just mentioned to you. They are responsible for most of the cubs now too, with the Sticks, with the Torchwood, and as well as the Nkuhumas. The Tsalalas, although yes, I did see it quite a while ago. It was actually, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, that I saw the Tsalala female, the tailless female. She had cubs. I think it was 2, which was quite nice to see. We haven't seen them in person, but I did see some pictures, and we actually haven't seen them for quite some time. But now they're just resting up, just taking a little break. And like I was saying earlier, this is actually quite a good strategy to just sit here like this, waiting, listening, waiting for one animal to make a mistake, to make a noise, and then they'll be up and heading in that direction. I don't think that they're going to stay down for too long. I think they'll be up shortly, moving around. It's nice and cool. But while the Nkuhumas take a quick siesta, let's go across to Ali, who seems to have one of the rarest birds up in a tree.
We indeed do. There's a beautiful ground hornbill that's just come all the way up here, and he's not too far away from where Thamba is, but he's clearly on top of a tree, and so he's all the way in safety. And he was just busy calling a few moments ago, and I really hope he would start again, because it's one of my favorite sounds out here in the bush, and I would really like to share it with all of you. There was another hornbill on top of this branch. Oh, there we go. And he flew away pretty much like this one is doing on the background there. Alright, a bit of a tricky spot, just hiding behind all the branches. And there was another one that flew pretty much on top of Thamba a few moments ago, and I think that got Thamba's attention. So his head is somewhat up, if you can see it over there, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be up to too much. He was quite interesting in the hornbills flying around them, and when they started making their call, then he started raising his head and moving around. So he seems somewhat alert now, more than what we have seen him this afternoon, and I can't see from here, but perhaps he's looking at the other hornbill that flew away a few moments ago. Oh, I'm going to shut up now because I think we might be able to hear the call of the hornbill. See, even Thamba's hearing. Now this one that's calling, this is the male. He's got a blue patch on his throat, and that's how I know, because the females, they have a completely red patch. Maybe hang on a second, I want to double check that fact that I've just told you, because I might have gotten the wrong way around. Oh, isn't that amazing? Even Thamba is looking at them. He's surrounded by ground hornbills. Ah, there's another one. There he goes, flying on top of him. So he's been definitely looking at them. So it seems that I got it the wrong way round. So the one that was calling was the female, because the female's the one with the blue patch and the male is the one with the red patch. As soon as I said it, I knew something didn't feel right. So it was the female that was calling in the distance, and we've had 3 fly above us, and I wonder if it's perhaps the same ones that Tristan had this morning, because the jackalberry where he spotted them was not too far from here, so maybe it should be good to go and inspect tomorrow and see what's happening. Luckily, they've gotten Thamba's attention, and his head has been straight up, and look how alert he is. His ears pointed in that particular direction, while all the birds and the hornbills in addition seem to be calling. What's wrong, Thamba? Wonderful to see you. Funny, just as some of the cats were up and about and moving around, we've got the sleepy ones that have almost woken up. Amazing how they've swapped. And I was quite surprised to hear that the lions were moving. It seems like it's a bit early for them, so I wonder if perhaps they were pushed away from wherever they had been resting by something else. I wonder, like I said, I can't see from here, but I think it's still the hornbills out in the distance what Thamba is so intently looking at, and they are I can still hear them faintly calling far, far away from here, so I'm sure that that's what he's got his attention on. Thomas, you say that it looks like Thamba's getting Tingana's eyes. I think he's got very beautiful eyes, this particular leopard. Look at him. I think he's going to be quite a handsome boy once he grows up. Beautiful. Just beautiful. You are very alert now. Finally waking up. I am completely and utterly mesmerized by this leopard. I think he might be one of the prettiest cubs that I have seen so far, and there's something about him, and I think the color of his eyes is very beautiful. And I remember Tiani, which is Salaesh's daughter, and they think she's also a leopard that lives in this area, and they think that probably Mr. Anderson was the male that is her father, and she had the brightest blue eyes, and now that she's grown older, she also has that very faint color, and I wonder if it's perhaps why I think that this is a stunning leopard, just because of that coloration of light eyes and their spots and everything else. I think it makes them look incredibly beautiful. And he sort of brought her to mind, so I wonder if I could play matchmaker and maybe in a few years' time have cubs from the both of them. I reckon they would have some of the most stunning eyes out here in the bush. But don't worry, I won't play matchmaker with you just yet. first we have to see how you do the next year or so of your life and if you'll stick around this area. As males tend to disperse quite a bit from where they were born, and sometimes they are known to pretty much go into an entire different area, sometimes a couple a couple of tens of kilometers, sometimes even 100 of kilometers away from where they were originally born into. But I am hoping that Thamba is going to stick around in an area where we can keep tabs on him and just find out how he does. Hopefully you'll stick around. Izzy, you're saying he's quite dark in color compared to the others. I agree with you, and that's probably why he's been puzzling all of us. He does look like he's somewhat spottier on his head, or perhaps it is just that his spot seems to be darker than some of the other leopards. I don't know, it's quite interesting to see how sometimes the combinations of different things work out. There is, for example, a very famous leopard in another national park in Tanzania, in Ruaha National Park. And they've got a leopard there that has got very dark rosettes, but they are so big that they almost look like they belong on a jaguar. So, funny enough, the rangers there have nicknamed him Onça for the Latin name for jaguar, which is Panthera onça. And when I look at Thamba, he reminds me as well of this particular one, just because his spots were so big and dark. And when I was doing my field work about the leopards of Ruaha in Tanzania, big yawn, nice big teeth. This one was very striking. He was probably the easiest one to identify, just because his rosettes didn't seem like they were right. Some grooming going on, and I thought you were going back to sleep. Nice big teeth. You're gonna be a big leopard, aren't you? I don't think he's decided if he wants to wake up. It's almost like his body is forcing him to wake up, but his brain is not ready to give up on the sleepy situation. But now that he is grooming himself, I think we have a bit more of a chance for him to stand up and maybe walk around a little bit. They tend to, and lions do it as well. Once they start becoming a bit more active, there's a lot more yawning, and while they yawn, there's a lot more oxygen that's being pumped into their brain. They start becoming less lethargic, they start grooming themselves, and then potentially start moving around. Beautiful boy. Let's see if he does get up to anything else around here. I think this is going to be a slow process for the time being. But while we wait for Thamba to get up, why don't we go back to Tayla and see what the lions have been doing?
Well, Ali, our lions have obviously caught the fever that Thamba had, because they're now resting up and don't show very many signs of actually moving. But I don't know how far they have actually walked, because the last time I heard, before we got that update earlier today that the Nkuhumas were on Torchwood, was I thought that they said this morning that the Nkuhumas were on Buffelshoek, Hook, so they could have been moving a bit. With it not getting exceptionally hot, it's not uncommon for them to move around during the day. So they're just resting up now, might have a little bit of siesta and wait for the complete cover of darkness before they go about on their next mission. But earlier we had them at least sitting up with their heads looking over the top of the grass. The position has now changed, and they've all rolled over, barring two of them. No, now we've got one lioness with her head up, and even that, it's barely being held up. I'm ready for her to doze off at any second. But it's okay, they might have a better chance if they wait until the darkness comes around. Of course, their eyesight is much better than the prey that they are going after. Now, because we're sitting in an area that's so dense, I don't know if the wind has stopped completely or it's just very sheltered. And I'm trying to stare off into the distance, and I can't actually see any of the tops of the trees moving around. So like I was saying, now they've obviously heard something. What have they heard? I didn't hear anything at all. It just shows you how supersonic their hearing is. I'm just going to shuffle in my seat and look behind me to see if I can maybe see any movement. No. And that's the direction that we heard those antelope barking a little while ago. It sounded like it was maybe kudu. So I don't know what startled the kudu, but something has definitely got the attention. Let's see if it is a short-lived moment and they're just going to put their heads back down again. And they will respond to most things. They'll respond to any cracking of the branches. Maybe they can hear elephants feeding off into the distance, and they will just pop their heads up like that. Not necessarily because they are worried that their cubs are going to maybe be harmed. If it was Shadow with her young cub, sort of any crack in the branch or anything like that could be a potential threat. But with the Nkuhumas being just over a year now, they can move pretty quickly and get out of the way. So the moms won't be too worried about them. Now the only thing though is that Amber Eyes is here, which worries me a little bit. And we did not see a tiny little cub moving along and in this grass. And I did have a chat to the other guides, and they said it isn't here. And I know that Amber Eyes has been seen with the Pride for quite some time. So I'm not sure what has happened to that little cub, because she wouldn't leave it unattended for too long. The longest I've ever seen a lioness away from her little ones was 4 days, and even that was an absolute stretch. And those cubs, when she got back to them, were very thin and very weak. So it's a very silly thing to do for a lioness to do. But if she hasn't caught anything, she hasn't eaten herself, then there's no point rushing on back, because she might not have any milk to produce, especially if she hasn't eaten for a couple of days. But one thing that we must remember out here is how cruel nature actually is, and that young predators don't have a very good chance of survival. So they can make it to 6 months. They've got a better chance of making it towards adulthood. These Nkuhuma cubs now have got a very good chance of making it to adulthood. However, the young male that's in here, his life is just going to get harder and harder for him, because he's going to get kicked out of Pride eventually. He's going to have to go off on his own. It's a big bad world out there, living in amongst other lions, and hopefully he won't be taken out. So it's a very tough life for these predators, and that's something we have to remember. But our lions are still sleeping. It seems as though Thamba is now starting to wake up. It's about time, so let's go and watch the young prince as he awakes.
Well, you can see now that he's swapped positions, but I think he's more concerned now with the flies. He's been on a fight with them for the last few minutes or so, and every now and again you'll see him opening his mouth and trying to catch them. I think he's had enough of them for this afternoon. Of course, now that I've mentioned it, you're going to pretend that you weren't actually eating the flies, are you now? It's fine. We all know the truth, Thamba. Standing by. Negative, Mike. He's still static, same log. You're more than welcome to make your way. East of Giraffe Dip on Central. Alright, sorry guys, I just had to update one of the guys that was trying to find out where beautiful Thamba was, so I couldn't possibly be rude. Alice, I believe you had a question from Daniel? Adele, sorry. Adele, you're wondering if he will still be close to his mother once he's older. Well, he will still recognize her, but leopards, they don't have social bonds like some of the other creatures do, or some of the other cats. So while he might still recognize her, seeing her doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a nice greeting. Often the females will fight with their daughters that they see, mostly because the daughters will somewhat inherit a portion of their mother's territory. And even when a mother and a daughter bump into each other, they fight, and they can be quite aggressive, especially if there are cubs or a kill around. Now with Thamba, for example, what would happen is that he will very likely move off entirely of this area where he's been into, unless there is a very opportunistic gap in between all of the males' territories. So I think once that he starts moving around and he becomes older and starts going into adulthood, likely he won't see his mother again unless he meets with her by chance. So I think it's a bit interesting and quite lonely, the life of a leopard, but I've never thought of it that way with males and females and recognizing each other. For sure he'll know who Thandi is, but like I said, I doubt that he will see her again once he becomes an adult and if he has to move off this area. Until he settles and becomes a dominant male in a particular area. I think we've got a nice bush there that's acting as a sensor. So while Thamba finishes with his daily grooming routine, let's go to Tayla and the lions in the darkness.
Right, so what's just happened now is there is some kudu alarming at the back, and I kid you not, these lions jumped up. They didn't even give it a second thought. One lioness has run back to the car. That's why you saw Sebastian panning like that. He was trying to keep on it. Now there go the adults, and the cubs have been told to stay put. This is a very good sign for us, of course. Here's a lioness coming right towards the car. And if you're wondering why all of a sudden your screen is black and white, you can stop banging your computer now. We are in infrared. Because I know that's the first thing I would do. You know, if I haven't switched it on and off again, and then I'll bang, you know, sort of give it a beating. Then try and get it to work again. But she's walking right next to the car, and she's approached us. And if you are worried that our safety is in jeopardy, don't worry, it's not. She wouldn't walk here if she didn't feel comfortable with us, and she's not interested in us. We do not look like anything that she would want to eat, but they're responding to those alarm calls of the kudu. I don't know if it's the lions that startled them, because it's quite a distance away, and I think that these lionesses know that. I think that they're going to take advantage of the kudu being frightened about something else, and then perhaps try and sneak up on them. You'll see. The little cubs now are starting to follow, but they're not supposed to be. They've been told, the rest of them all sitting there. But of course, you get one or two that don't like to listen. Is that lion still behind us? Is she gone? Okay.
Gone. Yeah, they're all gone.
Okay, let's go. Let's keep following the adults then. I think that's what our plan is going to be. So now we need to reverse. I have to put lights on now. That's exciting. Okay. No. Please unhook. I caught a tree, but I let it go. It was too young to take with. I was obviously fishing on my holiday as well, that's why I'm speaking like I'm a fisherman. Okay, we'll just go through here and we'll go back the way we've come. Trying to blind the other guests. There's one lioness that's still coming around. Now this is the tough part. Oh my goodness, look at my little friend that I've got here. Where did you go? Now to try and find them is another story. I think we're going to have to actually follow this lioness, because I've lost the others now. They move quite quickly. Like I said, they got up and they raced. We'll wait for this girl to cross the road and we'll follow her in. I'm just going to turn my lights off. Here she comes. Now I'm not going to put any lights on her now, just because they are moving around. We're lucky we've got infrared. Are you a little bit sore? What are those on her back leg? Are those bite marks and cuts and things? She seems to have... Let's have a look. It looks like it. Hey, it looks like she's... Oh my goodness, you look like you've been in the war. She does look a bit sore. See that back left? Slightly stiff. It almost looks like she's stiff in her hips. So maybe she has had a battle. Things like this can often happen when lions are hunting, taking down large prey. You can imagine. They can injure them. Definitely think she's slightly sore. And it could be why she's hanging back as well. So she might not necessarily partake in the main hunt. You know what I'm thinking, Seb? I wonder if we don't go around onto that other road that we were on earlier, Quarry Pan Road. Because I think that's where they're going. Let's do that. And she's just going to slowly start catching up with them. But I think that's the direction that they're going in. We're not going to hang around with the cubs. We want to see the action. Oh, there's another lioness. Okay. But I'll tell you right now, a lioness with an injury doesn't last for long, especially when your dinner is standing right in front of you. You will all of a sudden get superpowers. It's amazing what adrenaline can do. There's one lioness just here, also disappearing now into the thicket. See how quiet they're also trying to be. So I think that she's got a combination. She looks slightly stiff in the hips, but I also think she's watching where she puts her feet. And if you listen very carefully when this lioness starts to walk, listen to how loud it actually is when she steps on the dry grass. You can actually hear it. So as soon as she takes her next step, I'll become silent and listen very carefully. So then maybe turn your volume up a little bit more. And without that wind, it means that they have to move a lot slower and more carefully than what they would if they had the wind to muffle their sound. But ears pricked forward, trying to pinpoint where those kudu were. Now listen. Did you hear that? You hear that crunching? Very subtle, but it's there. I can even hear it with my own ears. Now if I can hear it, imagine something like a kudu, which has got much larger ears and is able to pick up sounds from all sorts of directions. They would hear those lions coming and they would know that something suspicious was going on. Yes, I think I'm going to take a gamble here. Let's go around. I just want to tell Rex and Tayla. Rex, I'm just going to loop around on the other side to see if they've popped out on the other road. Okay, right, let me put lights on. Let me get spotlight as well. Oh, we've got all these little gadgets. Okay, we're going to quickly go a little bit quicker and just jump on over here. I'm not going to try not to follow them now off-road because you've seen that the lions are even trying to be as quiet as they can, so it's not going to help if I go bashing through the bushes now. So we will try and stick onto the roads as much as we can, and what we will do is we'll listen again. If we hear, obviously, a chase or if we hear a distress call, then we know we can run on them. But we do want to give these animals the best possible chance. They've got youngsters they need to feed, they need a meal too, and it just wouldn't be fair on us if we went barging through the bushes when they were actively after something, and we know that they definitely want something. So we're going to try and find the best spot. We will sit and wait and be patient, just as Ali was patient for most of the afternoon, and we'll go back across to them and see how she's enjoying the man with all the rosettes.
Well, he is busy gotten back to grooming himself. I think maybe there's a bit of a tick in a tough spot. So I'm sure he's getting rid of it. But he hasn't moved around too much. I think he's just trying to get rid of as many flies as possible because he's been attacking and trying to bite all of them. Which has been quite funny, and then he's tried to lay down again and the flies become a bit more annoying, and then that's when he decided to get up and start grooming himself. He has become a lot more alert than when we first started. That is quite obvious, I would say, just by the fact that we can see his face now and there's a bit of movement. And he spent quite a lovely afternoon just snoozing on top of the termite mound. You have been contorting in a very funny way. I think maybe there's a fly or an insect that I can't really see on the screen anymore, but I think that's why he's moving his head in... thank you for those teeth. That's why he's moving his head in such a funny way, just trying to catch them mid-air. Very thorough grooming session, I must say. Seems like Tandy has taught him well, and he's just maintaining his coat in perfect condition. I don't think he wants to look dirty for when Mom comes back to you, boy. I think also there are a few ticks there that have been annoying him. He starts moving around and almost doing like that biting motion that they do to try and get potentially rid of bigger ticks. Because as you can imagine, moving around in this environment, and no front line here, so lots of ticks and little parasites that get attached onto all of the creatures. And it becomes a bit more obvious, I would say, as they get older and maybe their hair gets a bit shortened, and then you see lots of ticks, especially around the ears and in between the legs, and often the cats, they will get them in between the toes. And it becomes very, very annoying for them. So I think he's fighting a tick off. Take care. You're wondering if the inner hairs of the ear affect the hearing? I would imagine that up to an extent, perhaps they do, but they also have a more important function, that it is to look after the ears, let's say, or the ear canal, and just prevent dirt and little things from coming inside and just making it dirty. So I don't think if they do hinder, I don't think it's much, because it's normally very thin hairs, and they don't do. They're never too cluttered together, let's put it that way. So it's not like if they have a big cotton swab in their ear. Oh, did you get that? So up to an extent, yes, I would imagine not having them would allow them to hear a lot better, but they've got to protect all the sensitive areas of their body. The flexibility of these cats never ceases to amaze me. Imagine if you were a human trying to do that and putting your leg behind your ear. I don't reckon that would be too easy. It's a lot of silence around where we are. We can just hear some of the nocturnal birds starting to call. We've got a fiery nightjar in the distance. And then there were some spotted thygnes or water thygnes that were also calling. Every now and again we can also hear a little pearl spotted owlet. I wonder. Oh my goodness, all these insects. Tilly, you're wondering if leopards sleep as much as lions. I would say that they don't sleep as much in one go as lions do, but some of them have been known to sleep almost just as much as lions. So lions are estimated to sleep around 20 hours in a day, and leopards just slightly less than that. I think all these flies are really starting to bother him. I wonder how many he's actually eaten in the time that we've been here. Not enough for a good meal. Andreen, you're wondering how much it affects cubs growing up with or without siblings. Well, that's a very interesting question, and I don't know if there's been any research done about it, so I'm definitely going to go look it up and just see what science says about it all. I would imagine that in terms of developing muscles and skills and problem solving, perhaps having siblings might be, or, you know, just fighting for food might give them a bit more of an edge in terms of survival, because from a very young age they will have to start competing with their very own family to be able to eat as much as they need, and just to show their dominance and just how strong they are, and being able to eat as much as they want. I think, or I suppose, that growing out without sibling might just make them slightly weaker in I would say in the physical sense, just because they don't have the constant battle with another sibling and having to try their muscles and chasing each other up. I would imagine that perhaps weaker is too much of a strong word, but they wouldn't be as agile and maybe in play fighting or in fighting eventually when they go older, just because of lack of practice. Because when they're very small, they only have their mothers who will tolerate them up to an extent, and then it's pretty much, if they're a single cub, it's just themselves to entertain themselves. So if there were another cub around here, maybe they would be playing around or tossing each other and moving. Alright, seems like someone's waiting for the return of his mother. We'll wait patiently, see if perhaps Tandy decides to make an appearance, but let's go over to Tayla, who's got a lot more mothers over there.
I hope for Thamba that Mom does bring him home a delicious treat, because he's been very good staying put where Mom has obviously told him to wait. Now it seems as though those lions just took a couple of steps into the bushes and then came right back out onto Drakensberg Road, which is where we were earlier. So obviously what they they thought they were hearing was a lot closer. It wasn't, and Sebastian and I were actually just discussing this. As that I said to him, I said it sounds like those kudu were actually on Torchwood. I didn't think that they were sort of between Cheetah Cutline and where those lions were. We were quite close to the boundary. Now I can see them moving off now, and I think the little ones are going, so we'll just hang tight with this lioness because there are some other cars in the sighting. So I'll just give them a bit of room and time to enjoy them as well. And we will watch this lovely lady groom her paws, which is another very important thing that I suppose animals have to do. They can't just go to the salon, they can't just go get their nails done or anything like that by anyone. They're responsible for their own hygiene, and it's important to keep themselves nice and clean, looking spick and span, otherwise they'd get completely covered in all sorts of parasites. As you can see, the behavior of lions changes significantly at night. There you can see the other lights from the other cars in the background, and again we're still in the infrared. And I'm sure you see it if you've got cats at home, how the behavior changes. They go from being all sleepy and docile during the day to the smallest thing at night catching their attention, and they get quite excited by it. But this is when the lions are in their prime, is in the darkness. They aren't known as the ghosts of the darkness for nothing. They truly are, especially with the way that they're able to move so quietly. But it has been a beautiful afternoon out here in the bush, spending time with all sorts of feline friends today. She's giving herself a good groom. Now she keeps looking back at the rest of the pride, but she doesn't seem to be too perturbed that they have started to move off. I'm sure when she feels as though she's getting too far left behind, tongue twister there, she will eventually get up and she'll start moving in their direction, but not bothered for now. Now I haven't seen Amber Eyes yet. We know she's there, but we haven't had a good look at her just yet. I'm actually just going to turn my bright light off that I had on just a moment ago, just because there's some guests coming and I don't want to blind them. And we just very briefly chatted about Amber Eyes and her potential cub, or her cub that she had. Now we can only speculate as to what's happened. Maybe it is still around and she's just moved it to a different area and she's popping back and visiting and we don't know it. But until we get a good look at her and see if she's still producing milk, we won't really know. And it is sad. I really hope, I'll be devastated if she has lost that cub. It will be very sad because, she hasn't had cubs before this. And it would have been amazing to see, great story to, of course, see if that cub would have made it to adulthood. But this is nature. These are just one of those things. We can't control them. We can't intervene and save everything. We've got to let nature take its course. But you know what? At least we got to see that little one. Sorry, we've got total darkness for a moment. We're still here. It was still amazing that you got to see a very quick glimpse with Ale. It was exceptional. So now that we know that Amber Eyes is indeed able to have cubs, which is quite exciting. So if this is her first litter, it's very sad that she maybe wasn't successful. Again, we're just speculating, we don't know. But the fact that she's hanging around with her pride more and more often and she hasn't brought the little one out yet, you have to start thinking of these things. We don't ever want to admit them, but we can't. I don't even know. It's sad because I love Amber Eyes and I was excited that she did have a little cub. I'm going to come back out onto the road again, I think. I'll just let her walk into the distance. So very sad, of course, but let's keep our fingers crossed. Like I said, maybe she's just been moving the little one around to different den sites, which would be quite exciting as well. But the longer she spends time with the pride and we don't see her away, we have to start realizing that unfortunately maybe something bad has happened to that cub, and it could be from another lion, it could be from baboons, it could be hyenas, it could be a leopard. There's lots of leopards lying around. If she did leave that little one unattended, something of course could have happened, or maybe she just didn't do a good enough job. And that's what happens. It does take practice, it does take time. It's a tough thing being a parrot out in this big bad world. And the Karula's, well, she was one of the greatest mothers, I think, of all the leopards that ever lived, and she did a sterling job. But not everybody is as great. I'm not saying that Amber Eyes is a bad mother, not at all. We think it's her first litter, so we don't know what, and I'm sure she would have done her absolute best to try and protect and to give that cub an opportunity. Let's keep trying to follow and see where they go, but I'm going to send you across now to Ale, and I wonder what she's up to.
Well, I think if anyone has taught me anything about patience, it will definitely be leopards. So Thamba every now and again glances in the direction of the dam, so I wonder if perhaps Tandy is somewhere there. If he can hear something we cannot, that might give her away. We have scanned around the area, but no luck. There doesn't seem to be anything around, and we have not heard her make any sort of contact call. So we're just speculating. I think we want her to come more than what she is actually around here. But I think now that we're having a look at him, he does look like a tiny little cub. He still has that look on his face that pretty much gives away just how young he is. And if you're wondering why the screen is in black and white, sorry, I forgot to mention, we have turned the IR on, the infrared, so that we can have more of a view of this little one during the night. You are... Oh, I hear some francolin in the distance. I'm not too sure. I think it would be worth it just to keep an eye on the dam cam this evening. I think Thamba might pop into that area, and you see how alert he is, and he's facing towards the drainage line, so I wonder if perhaps Tandy has not decided to come back and she's somewhere around here. We have tried to, like I said, scan around the area, but I can't hear anything and I couldn't see anything, and it's quite thick all around us. So I suppose we'll have to wait a few minutes and see what happens. See if perhaps she does decide to come around, or if not, if they do make another appearance at the dam cam. I think he's still got it. Now that he's got his head up and we are having a very nice view of him, he does still have that look, that kitten look, or not kitten, that cub look. It looks like he's still a young individual. I can't believe you're so tired. You've had like 3 hours nap. Outrageous. Are you gonna party into the night? Interesting. It's been quite interesting to spend an afternoon with this cub. I would imagine that they would be like humans, that if mom's not around, they would just get up to all sorts of things and maybe be a bit more active and play around, but it seems like he's just been very happy to do nothing. Nancy, you say he still looks like such a baby. I agree with you. I mean, look at that. But a very brave baby that sleeps in termite mounds while mom is away, and there are leopards and lions and buffalo and elephants all around. So I think one of the toughest boys around. Like I say, I'm surprised he was pretty much on the same spot the whole afternoon. I would have assumed that maybe he was a bit more active all throughout the afternoon, but seems like we were wrong, and he surprised us in just being a very nice Saturday afternoon. Perfect Saturday. I mean, I can't believe how lucky we've been, and just what amazing views we've been able to have of all these fantastic creatures. I, for one, am very, very happy that we have managed to see him, especially because he's been eluding me for so long. But I think we've broken the chain now, and now Thamba and I can officially be friends, because we have spent the whole afternoon with him. I think maybe we'll have a last look of him before we have to say goodbye to all of you. It has been a wonderful day spent with everyone, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it just as much as all of us, and we will see you all tomorrow for an amazing day, I hope.